of course, last one of these videos I do for the year, and the camera now decides to show the white line of annoyance. I suppose I should start with saying, of all the times I've ever done this series of videos, I certainly never would have expected wearing an outfit like this. Then again, I don't think I ever would have expected to be able to do something very important after doing this particular video that would require wearing such a nice outfit. So there's that. Also, if you guys are getting kind of annoyed with, this, listen, 5 videos in a series like this is kind of a lot. It is. I totally get it. And if you find that annoying, I'm not going to argue with your opinion. Your opinion is yours to own. So, if nothing else, I promise this is the last one. I mean, I said it's a 5-part series of videos. This is part number 5. So, we're almost there. As my father would joke occasionally, only 1 million more to go. No, I'm only kidding. I would never, I wouldn't do that to you guys. Huh. So, I mean, you read the title of this video, and yes, it is actually something I really should take the time to mention, because, I mean, as someone who is going to have to live forever with the fact that I contemplated suicide, I mean, yes, I am thankful I didn't do it, but I still thought about doing it. That's something I gotta live with forever. It actually is good for me to understand the fact that, because of a quite literal life-changing decision, life-saving decision, actually, I'm still here. And as long as I am still here, it makes me wonder if there is anything in life that I'm proud of. I mean, the simple answer would be, I lived to be this long. My birthday is literally 1 week from today. I'm turning 36 in a week. That's crazy. When, I was about to turn 19 at the time. So, yeah, man, 17 years. That's crazy. Of course, I really need to elaborate on that more. I mean, in 17 years, some things had to have happened, right? Well, yeah. And I'd be remiss if I wasn't honest about talking about some of the bad. There have been, losses in my family. My Aunt Debbie, my Aunt Kathy, my cousin Jackie Graham this past last year. My grandfather Richard Rahill, my grandma, or Nana as we call her, Diane Glissman, my grandmother Rose, my father's mother. So, yes, I have had to live with, the sadness that I had to see them off. I had to, I was there when they passed. It's, and yeah, I said in the past, I actually tried qualifying for the Boston Marathon 3 times. And yeah, I finished the marathon to be sure, but I still never qualified for Boston. And I've also said this before. The day that my brother got married, I was miserable that entire day. And I find this interesting because a while ago, I was actually having lunch with my mother at Bully Hill back earlier this summer. And it was actually a couple weeks after it would have been my brother and sister-in-law's 9th wedding anniversary. Hold on. Excuse me. And my mom had asked, like, I forget what specifically the question was, but she asked me, how, like, what my thoughts on that wedding were. Because I will admit, I really was at a time in my life where, I might still be alive, but come on, that's not going to be me standing up in the aisle with, after meeting a nice girl and, building our relationship on a foundation of, trust and respect and eventually love, only, form a family later. But the one thing from that day I've never wavered on is the union between my brother and his wife was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. For as miserable as I was that whole day, the union between, husband and wife, obviously, that was beautiful. Like, for as bad as I was feeling that day, the union is what, elevated, not just evened it out, but elevated it. And, do I even need to mention that, since then, I've become an uncle to not one, not two, but 3 nephews? Who love me very much as I them, and seriously, so often my mom will talk to me about my nephews and how they like to talk about me. And how do you not feel good when you hear something like that? And I mentioned, the 3 failed Boston qualifying attempts, but hey, listen, in the process, I ran 4 marathons. That's, some people will be too terrified or have no desire to do even 1. I've done 4. That's already impressive. Couple that with the fact that I also did 4 100-mile bike rides for charity. In those same years I did marathons. Yeah, actually, the Tour de Cuca and the Wine Glass Marathon are barely 3 months apart from each other. And in 4 years, I did that 4 times. I would do the 100-mile Tour de Cuca and then the marathon a couple months later. Needless to say, stuff like that is not for the faint of heart. And over the years, I made plenty of life choices myself. I lost a lot of weight. I was able to reignite my love and appreciation for this community. I'm able to live in an apartment on my own. And through all the highs and lows, I have a family that loves me. And I love them. So, even if for whatever reason my life would be absolutely horrible, upon, no longer contemplating and therefore will never commit suicide. I've got my family. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that I have been very blessed and privileged to know and still know many extraordinary people, whether they were from Trinity Pawling or the people I met at Gettysburg College, or in the process of reigniting my love for this area, I reconnected with many people I've known even since since even kindergarten. You know, I was able to do all that. I will admit, there are some things that still could use some work, but I could definitely say that I'm farther now than I was even before I started making videos. I mean, for a brief example, it was 2023 when I just did a lot of stuff throughout the day. I went to a friend of mine's opening for her beauty salon because I actually known the particular owner of this place since kindergarten, so I thought I'd pay my respects. Later that night, I went to Rye Bar and ran into a very dear friend of mine who actually had lost a family member that I also knew very well, earlier during the pandemic. And I remember waking up feeling a sense of pride and self-satisfaction where, I realized I was doing all of this on my own. Like, I was out and about and doing things myself. I never, back when I lived with my parents, after college and such, it never would have occurred to me to ever really do this. But I was. So I remember visiting my parents that day. This is April in 2023. And, my mom walks in the door later, and I told her about all the stuff I did, and I told her I felt, happy with what I was doing. And then I asked if that's what self-love is. And she said, yeah. And I remember that I started to cry. Good cry. Well, actually, yes, I say this a lot, but this is one of those things that bears repeating. Don't ever feel ashamed if you have to cry. Don't ever feel ashamed about that. Like, crying really is one of the most beautiful and human things you can do. And if anyone makes fun of you for that, they're wrong. They are absolutely wrong for that. So, actually, you know what? Speaking of things that I'm proud of, I wouldn't be proud of this one particular thing without having to deal with something bad, too. I said after, after, Andrew Weinstein had killed himself and, he went home for winter break. And, I said we still had to come back. And, winter can always be a depressing time of year. We're all away from home after the holiday season, stuff like that. We were at New England's for wrestling. And this year it took place at Avon Old Farms. And, a bunch of us around the bus, just, shooting some skeet, busting each other's chops because, again, Trinity Pawling's an all-boys school, and that's what guys do. And I was actually eating a Quaker Oats Chewy bar. And, we're, again, busting each other's chops. But it gets to the point where one of my teammates actually, puts me in a chokehold as I'm swallowing, the bite of, again, Quaker Oats Chewy bar that I'm eating. So I'm actually quite literally choking. In the process, my face is turning beet red, as that's what happens. My eyes get kind of teary because, again, you're choking me. That's what happens. And another teammate, not just any teammate, but the one teammate I thought I'd be able to understand the most. Because, for reference, this teammate of mine was also a postgraduate who was wrestling for Trinity Poly. And he was also from upstate New York. Of everyone there, the two of us ought to have been able to understand each other the most. And this guy winds up filming the entire thing and then passing it off to everybody as if I was crying. So, even though I'm clearly not crying, everybody says I was. Needless to say, it sucked, but from that, I decided that one thing I would always do is I would never, in my entire life, for the rest of my life, I will never make fun of anyone for crying. Because no one should ever feel bad about being honest with your feelings. Emotions don't ask for permission, They don't. In fact, if it were up to me, if I saw someone crying and if I wanted to help them out, I would do all I could to help them. If anything, I'd be crying with them to know that, life is hard and, you're never alone and stuff like that. So, yes, I am proud of the fact that I, came to that conclusion on my own. And it also gave me the humility and self-respect to, be more kind to others. It allowed me to form those reconnections I've made over the years. It allowed me to, be more confident, even though, believe me, I have a lot of work on that too. And, sorry, it's always during this series I always wind up crying a little. But again, crying is the most beautiful and human thing you can do. So I'm not judging myself on this. And not to mention, there's still things yet to come that I know are going to be good that I'm going to wind up being proud of later. I mentioned earlier that, I'm wearing this outfit because I have something very special to do shortly after I get this video uploaded and, I can head out to it. And that is, I'm actually going to the Horseheads football end of the year party. Craziest thing. All those videos I did about, giving out the Blue Hammer Award for, every Horseheads game, the players actually really liked it, enjoyed doing that when I did that. So one of the players, specifically the gentleman who won the Ernie Davis Award, crazy, asked me if I could be a part of this event, as well as if there's a speech, I could do that. Full stop. I actually have the speech written out. It's saved on my notes app. So I'm probably going to take my notes app up with me when I go do the speech. But I get to actually do it. I get to literally take, because the speech would be about like what the Blue Hammer is and what it means. like, for those of you who don't know, one of my greatest goals in life would be to, in any way, shape, or form, unite both of my alma maters, Horseheads High School and Trinity Poly. And something like this is definitely something that would fit in that category. So needless to say, I am very excited that I get to do this. Personally, I'm shocked that, they even asked me to do this at all. But how could I say no? So as soon as I finish this video, yeah, I'm definitely going to get ready to go. I mean, look at this. I mean, my outfit's essentially, I just got to put on my nice dress shoes for this. Even though I said like dress casual, I think I'm probably dressed okay. Okay, so yeah, as the title of the video suggests, the answer to that question is yes. There actually are many things that I am proud of that I've done. Whether you want to simplify it as just, the fact I'm still here today, talking about this and doing these videos, about to turn 36 in a week, or you want to talk about all of the accomplishments I've done, including but not limited to, graduating college, riding 4 marathons, 400-mile bike rides for charity. The list would go on and on. Or even if you want to, be a little more forward thinking and say, I'm going to give a speech today at the Horseheads end of the year football party, possibly. Like, yeah, I'm definitely proud of that. Sure. Sorry, just sometimes I just need a minute to take a lot of things in, because it's stuff like making these videos, specifically these videos, sharing it with so many people who could very well take this story of mine and learn from it, and maybe help themselves out with it if at all possible. And speaking of people, all the people that I've come to know and have, love and respect for, and appreciation as well. And at the end of the day, I still have my family. I not only have so much to be thankful for, but also to be very proud of. And I don't think for the life of me I really could ever do anything to change that. At this point, the only thing I can do is, keep going. And who knows? Come this time next year, I will be 36 years old, and that's going to be one more year of, many things that, have given me so many emotions that I am able to experience. There's going to be things that'll make me upset. There's going to be things that'll make me cry. But there's also going to be things that'll surprise me, and there'll be things that'll make me happy. And I'll be able to share all those with you, whether it's throughout the year or, really quantifying just everything I've been through to make it to this point in my life so far. I get to share all that. So, how could I be anything but proud? Actually, speaking of the Blue Hammer Award, again, the Blue Hammer is literally right next to the camera. I'm looking at the Blue Hammer right now. It's literally right next to the camera. I suppose I should probably take it with me. And of course I will. So, with the end of 2025 just less than a week and a half away, if it were to end today, the year I mean, I could say it was a great year, but I'll definitely take time to elaborate on that. But the thing I would definitely need to say at this moment is I am very humbled that I got to share this story with all of you in terms of talking about this series of videos, the now 8th year I've been able to do this. I'm very hopeful that you take my story, you understand it, and know that, there is a better way. Life really is beautiful for all of the bittersweetness that it has. And know that whether it's me or anyone else you can trust in your life, there's always going to be someone to talk to. And as Dr. Seuss once said, be who you are and say how you feel. Because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Trust me when I tell you, the people who don't mind will hear you out. And they'll definitely help you. Because they matter. So, have a nice day. Make good choices.